Hello and welcome back to another happy hour. Thanks for tuning in on this dreary, rainy Wisconsin day. Hopefully some of this can go back to Colorado, our friends in Colorado out there, and help with their fires. I'm Ryan Frame, Creative Director here at Backflip, and today is going to be really, really fun. It's drone tips and tricks with Chad Halvorsen. It's basically just an excuse to hang out with Chad, one of my good longtime friends. Who I've known for a long, long time. We'll talk about that too. That's always fun in the pre kind of happy hour setup. I'm like, hey, how's it going? Let's not talk about stuff though, because I want to save it all for the show. So that's always fun. Joining me as always, we've got the creative director here at Backflip, John Shoemaker. Hey, John, how's it going?
I'm good. I'm very good. I can't see you right now, but I trust you.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I trust you as far as I can throw you.
That's perfect.
But I can't see you.
That's perfect. I think you could throw me pretty far. You're getting pretty buff.
Probably somewhat far. I don't have the bulk. It would be more of a lever thing using the length of my arms. I don't know.
Sure. And the length of your torso. I like it. All right. And joining us today, as I mentioned before, is our good pal, Chad Halvorsen, right over there. How's it going, Chad?
I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. We haven't shot a lot recently, so I don't remember why. Oh, somebody suggested drone, and I was like, oh my gosh, it'd be amazing to get Chad on. I haven't talked to Chad in forever, so I'm glad we could get you on.
Yeah, no, it's always a pleasure to hang out.
So obviously, I think we probably have a lot of our friends, kind of tuning in. But for those who don't know you, can you give us a little bit of a bio? Who are you? Who's your daddy, and what does he do?
Yeah, so you and I know each other from growing up in Kenosha. We both worked at a movie theater together, owned by Cinemark down there.
The best seat in town.
The best seat in town. Yeah, so college, I got into film, and then I remember kind of starting out over here in Milwaukee and then hearing about you joining up with John, and you guys are starting up some stuff, and it's obviously been nice to see us grow over the past, 14 years, 15 years we've been doing this. But yeah, I got my start doing editing, post-production for a TV show for a local Fox affiliate. And it was about new home building. We had a lot of new home building shows, and then the market crashed and nobody was building new homes anymore. So right. I got let go. Did some stuff on the side. I think that's around the time I started doing 48s because I wasn't doing anything production wise, and I needed a creative outlet. So I started doing those up in Madison, and started in Milwaukee, and then all over the place. And then I got another job starting out as like a post-production person, and then it ended up turning into a producing job, which is more what I like to do. Not that I have to have control over everything, but I've worked on so many projects where somebody is supposed to have all the information and nobody does. So by default, I can at least have the information and know what the hell's going on. But yeah, so I was working for Flip 11 for about 4 years. Got let go from there, and then I decided, I feel like I've learned enough working under other people that I can start pushing myself as whatever I was going to be, because I have a few different talents. And you guys grew up around here, the film industry is a little bit different. Say if we were to work out in LA or New York or even Chicago, we kind of have to know everything. But the cool thing is, over the years, it's not just everything you can do in one thing you're good at. Now it's like everything I can do in 3 or 4 other specialties I'm good at. And drone is one of them. So drone I picked up about 5 years ago now. And right when they started coming out, and I saw the possibilities. I remember the first time we had a hexacopter on a shoot, and it could only fly for 5 minutes and it was holding like a GH4 and maybe like 35 mil on it, and yeah, I could fly 5 minutes and no more. It was crazy. And then once the technology got better, and it not that it got more consumer based, because it did for consumer, but
Yeah,
at least
definitely.
for pros in our industry, it got to the point where it's like, all right, I know I can fly one of these things because I grew up playing flight sims my entire life and video games, and all I got to do is sit there and not crash it. I feel like I'm pretty good at that.
Yeah, that was amazing, and I feel like we can all tell our moms, we're like, see, the video games did pay off, mom. I've certainly found that to be true as well. I like that point too that you made, and it was made last week as well by Tom Kermgard, who is an executive producer here at Kingdom. That's Shine Agency's video production arm. And he talked about being an executive producer, and he's also a writer, and he's directed. I think he definitely leans more towards producing and writing, but kind of in the Midwest, like you said, when you step into a production and something needs to get done, sometimes that's, the producer, the executive producer, or, sometimes the director is cleaning up after the food or something like that, because you have to kind of spread your expertise and not be afraid to do different things. And by and large, we're not unionized out here in the same way as you are in Hollywood. So I can touch a C-stand, you can touch a C-stand, like there aren't regulations against that. So we all end up helping out. And I think that makes it for just a very unique experience in filmmaking in the Midwest.
I definitely like it for flexibility, especially when you're trying to teach. There's always the younger generation that's coming up, and they look up to you, especially because it's a hard industry in general in the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get, and I don't mean kids, but when you get kids that really, they know they like the format and what's going on, but they don't necessarily know what they like. It's
Mm-hmm.
easy to be like, all right, well, we're going to have you be a PA because that's bare minimum stuff that you need to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And then as you're on set more and more, start looking at the different things that start interesting you. Do you like the technology behind camera, or do you like setting up the lights to shape,
Mm-hmm.
everything? Like it's a unique way of getting them into a larger world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and it's a apprenticeship model industry that I think if you go to film school, you don't really know that or find that out. You just and it kind of results in a little bit of confusion for younger people just getting started out, because you get your degree, you come out, and you're like, great, I'm a filmmaker now. And actually it's like, well, it's more similar to the trades than you realize. It's kind of like apprenticing behind a carpenter, and initially, like, you don't get to do the detail trim work or whatever. Like you're doing manual labor, and you're learning your way up the craft, up the ladder. um and that's how it is in the film industry too. Like, it's helpful to study things, but then you need to really like get yourself connected with other professionals
Mm-hmm.
and learn what they're doing. And then as you grow, you kind of start honing your craft, or leaning in a particular direction. What's my area going to be?
It's nice too, because I always tell people, like, I had a friend who had a drug problem. He did his time, he got out, and he had nothing to do. And I'm like, well, hey, you can pick stuff up, right, and take orders. He's like, yeah. I'm like, start coming on some of my shoots. And now he's a stage manager at the rave. Like, it's, you don't need to know anything about film theory, or like anything a DP would have to know. You don't have to know prose or how to write. like if you're literally just a person good with their hands, you can walk on a film set and learn a skill and be good at it.
Well, and I think it kind of connects it. And, I think there's pros and cons to film school. We went to Milwaukee. I went to Milwaukee for a year and then transferred to UW. And I remember at Milwaukee, just the experimental nature of it. And I was like, I want to be able to make money from art. I still want to create art, but I want to be able to have a living. And I think it was still valuable to, just experience just a very different style that I was not familiar with. And then at the University of Madison, it was a lot more practical. However, I feel like it's still a lot more up here than it is kind of a, full body experience. And what I mean by that is like, then I got out and we started working, we started being, paid to do stuff. And then you have to make a connection of, okay, well, how do I actually do this? Okay, I see this shot in that scene and I understand that there's, this kind of lighting and that, but how do I actually communicate that? What equipment do I use? How do I, get the art team to realize that vision? And I feel like you really don't get that experience until you are on set and you are working with just really talented people and you learn how to make those connections. And so then instead of it just being all up here, it's just a full kind of mind, heart, and body experience. Like, physically what it takes. You know how to, where you're trying to go and why you're trying to do it.
And learning how to balance everything as well, because you might learn that this is how you do something, use this light, use this lens, whatever. But then you're out in the world and you're like, well, the constraints of this project are that we have this budget and we have these things available to us. Can I apply anything that I know, but then work within, what I've got in front of me to try to get the best thing? So yeah, there's just, and then working as a team too, like that's a big deal. Finding people that you can, like the people that we work with a lot, we start to be able to sort of speak each other's language, which speeds things up on set when you're running on a tight, timeline. And you don't have like that communication element that you're saying, Ryan, like I don't have time to like try to figure out how to communicate this, but there are people that we've worked with enough that it can just be like, oh, do that thing again,
Jordan Post comes to mind. I'm assuming you guys are still working with him when you can.
Yeah, he's like the guy that I have a lot of shorthand with. I'm like, hey, remember that thing with the edge in the back? I'm like, good, go do it. So let's see. This is a happy hour, so I did want to share what I'm drinking, and then we'll get to drone stuff. As always, I've got some amino acid water. I've also got some tea. Got to stay real hydrated. But then I've also got a rep. I've got some Golden Berry America AF. You can tell this is special and legit because it's just a can with a little sticky label on it from our friends over at Carbon 4. So you always got to be repping that.
Did that come out yesterday?
So the Golden Berry America AF has been around for a little while. It may have come out again. They may have had another batch come out, but I think I first had this like a month ago, maybe. Yeah. It's a good one. What do you guys got?
Water, Lake Michigan.
Yeah,
hopefully not
Flint,
Flint,
Michigan.
Hopefully not Flint, Michigan.
No.
I've got, oh man, I got some show and tell here. So, all right, I've got a mug here, and inside, people, if they've watched this, it's the homemade cider. But I brought some other things down. So there's just wanted to. So
I don't know where this is going, but I like it.
We made applesauce with some apples from the trees outside.
Okay.
You boil those suckers up, and then you smash them down into this thing. You can them in stuff like this. But then you've got all this leftover material, and we just put that leftover material into a stock pot and boiled it up, and threw some cinnamon in, some cloves. We actually ended up going probably too heavy on the cloves and cinnamon, so it's a very like spicy, syrupy cider, but it pairs very nicely with spiced rum. And I don't even know the brand that I have up there. It's probably not a brand worth even
Kirkland.
mentioning. It's cheap. It's not. Well, maybe
I've got a bottle of Kirkland up there. It's really good.
Oh, like Oak Creek or Oak Barrel or something. It's like not the like big box giant plastic bottle, but it's like whatever brand was like that same cost level that wasn't like a big box.
Nice. That's a
There you go.
For this rainy day. That feels great.
There you go.
Also, Chad Heather says you are a man of so many talents, and this is Heather House. Milwaukee Twisted Dream Film Festival welcomes you for any and all of those talents.
Oh, well, thank you.
Which reminds me of Hey Neighbor. Or I was trying to think, is it Hey Neighbor or Hi Neighbor? Hi Neighbor.
It's Hi Neighbor.
Hi Neighbor.
Hi Neighbor.
Yeah. I'll see if I can find that and share it where you are let's see, you're a clone.
I don't think it was ever established. I don't die and I keep multiplying essentially.
Yeah. Every day you get killed and then you're back. And that's one of my favorite versions of you. That plus Wild Man. Or were you Goose?
I was Wild Man.
You were Wild. Yeah. I guess it makes sense, Wild Man. But I was like, oh no. But that was so much fun too. Just you being Goofy in one of those 48-hour films.
That was good.
That 48, you guys did all the visual effects. I always remember at the end credits, is there John? You go across and you slap Ryan in the face, or is it vice versa?
Oh yeah. It's probably John slapping me because that's a thing he does.
Oh yeah.
Well, and like that year we didn't get the special effects because no one, I imagine realized the special effects that we had in there because they were so subtle. Yeah, and I was like, I was on a call last night with some special effects artists, and they're like, "What was it for?" It was for like one of the Apollo, like an Apollo movie or something like that, and they're like, "Yeah, we didn't win special effects that year because they had no idea all the special effects that we did." And I was like, that is a badge of honor, sir. But anyway, back to drone. Let's get into this. I'd love to see some of the stuff that you've done, and then we can talk a little bit more about tips and tricks that we have. And I'd love to hear some funny stories. I mentioned before how we've lost stuff in the lake and crashed. Like, I'd love to hear what's happened to you at some point.
Oh boy.
And your interactions with cops. I've only had positive interactions, but like anytime I'm flying in a populated area, I'm like, okay, the cops are going to come. Here's how we talk to them. And, it's always been great.
Yeah. It's always in the big city. But I remember the first time cops ever came was when I was flying with you guys, or you were flying. We were like 2 blocks away from the Capitol. And you already had your clearance, you had your permit. And it was, like, hey, just to let you know, cops are probably going to show up. So I go by that mantra every time I go out. So
nice. All right. So what do you want me to pull up that Vimeo selects?
Yeah.
Or do you want to show your
with all the watermarks? It's no I didn't drop any LUT on it or anything, so.
Oh yeah.
But I was shooting for a client, and then another client or potential client called, like, hey, we need things, and this is like the newest thing. I'm like, well, let me give you this, and super quick. So
perfect. Yeah, all the caveats apply. I think I have some raw footage too that I'm trying to find so I can share of the Capitol. That looks great. But yeah, we'll just take a look at this. I don't know that we'll have sound. We may have sound. You may not have sound, but the viewer will. Is there, let's see, do you want to just talk us through any of these shots?
Yes. So I got a call in the spring from the Discovery Network or a company working for them, and they're like, "Hey, we do this show called Murder Tapes," and this is right around the time we're like, "All right, we're gonna start opening up a little bit with COVID and start doing things."
Also, the name of that show sounds like something my children would invent, like murder tapes, like two random words together.
Well, it's like, who uses tapes anymore? But I'm not gonna beat that title to death. But
That's awesome.
yeah. So, anyways, they called me and they're like, "Hey, can you sort of be sort of like a DP-ish / drone pilot?" And what they did is they built this mobile rig that I would go to like the police station or the spouse, and instead of like shooting with a traditional 2-person crew and some lights, like they literally put a 4K camera on a gimbal, and then it had a boom mic and its own Mac and a solid state drive, so everything was like ready to go in a travel kit. So I would literally just travel to each of the locations, drop the kit off, fly drone, and then sit in my car for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those jobs. It was really good.
Yeah,
Anyways,
interesting.
so all of the footage is Milwaukee and a couple of surrounding places. It's pretty much wherever I had to go where we were talking to people. Because in the show they do these like long drawn out shots, and they'll put the voiceover of dispatch with a person calling in, and they'll put text on screen and all that stuff. So that's what this footage is.
Cool. It was fun. And for a second there with the Milwaukee Bridge, I was like, ooh, is that time we were shooting? But then I was like, oh, no, it looks just slightly different. I think since it's just such a recognizable location, it's, one of those good spots to drone. Yeah, and this stuff's
Well, and that's
amazing.
the thing. Like, how many times have I shot the wings at the waterfront with the
Yeah.
Northwestern Mutual building? Like, I've done it before, but if I'm going to get paid to do it again, I'm going to shoot it differently, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had to talk to cops or owners of locations that are like, like I talked a cop, Madison police officer was like, all right, just make sure you're not flying over. This is for an event, a march to the Capitol. They're like, just make sure you're not flying over everyone. And I was like, well, anyone who's not materially participating in the event. And they're like, oh, I thought it was nobody. You couldn't fly over anybody. And I was like, again, materially participating. And he's like, oh, I'll have to look that up. And I was like, yeah, here's the permit and the information that I have. Have you ever had any instances of that where you had to educate people?
I normally like to scope out ahead of time, especially locally. Like I'll have my certain spots where I go to. It's normally when I'm in a location that I'm not familiar with that I see more law enforcement. Like I was in Chicago in the spring shooting for AT&T, and I had to get I was there for morning light, and I was getting skyline shots and the lake. And again, this is COVID, so like, and it was COVID. There were marches going on, everything was boarded up, and I had to circumnavigate all that and get my drone shots. And there was a cop at the beach because they had closed down the walkway that's at the front over by Navy Pier. And I drove up and I automatically saw the squad. So in those situations, I just automatically assume I'm going to go talk to them no matter what. Like I'll do it in a stage where I'll pull out the case, I'll open it up so they can see, and then I'll walk over and be like, hey, my name's Chad. I'm a certified drone pilot. This is who I'm working for. This is what I'm doing. If you have any issues, speak now, forever hold your peace. And most of the times, if you're upfront about it, and the same applies with property owners, or, you're shooting in public and you have the right to most airspace.
Yeah.
But people don't know that. So just going in with that Midwestern, like, hey, I'm really only shooting like super wide stuff. I'm getting this specifically. Right. Again, if you're just upfront, and if they ask for documentation, show them, and you shouldn't have a problem.
That's a fun thing too that you point out. Oops, I got a little echo there. Here, I'll do this.
Well, and people don't know people don't know
Sorry, I can't think now because of the echo.
People don't know the rules. You can show them documentation.
That's
We've
it.
run into
Yeah.
that where we show them the permit, and then they're like, "Oh, I'm not familiar with this." And it's like, "Yeah, you're not familiar with any of this because you just, you don't do this. You're a
Hmm.
police
Yeah.
officer. You take care of the things that you take care of. You don't necessarily know the rules of the FAA, airspace, and stuff like that." Um, and so it becomes a relationship challenge to try to establish that, because it's one of those situations where regardless of what paperwork you have, um, you don't want to get into a situation where you're getting into an argument with law enforcement, because regardless of if you have the right documentation, then you're just going to get in trouble for something else. So
Right.
Yeah, it's tricky, and I don't know. My huge problem isn't so much dealing with police. Um, I don't know. I guess maybe I could be doing more drone stuff, but it's more of like when I get the clients that book me last minute, or even like the clients that book me a week ahead of time, and I hound them for information like where are we flying, what are we doing,
Hmm.
you know, and I get there and they automatically expect you to just pop up and fly wherever.
Hmm.
It gets to be. I find those situations more hairy because now I didn't even have the time to like scope out a potential site where it's like, hey, what do you want me to shoot? Oh, just get B-roll of the city. Oh, the city that I've literally never been to. Sweet. Um, it's those are the situations where I get a little bit more anxious and um, like I'll be super, not that I'm not aware of where I'm flying, but like I'll try to find the most like desolate, like nobody's around, just let me get up in the air. And once you're kind of in the air, most of the
Yeah.
times, unless people know what you're doing, they see the controller. But a lot of times you can like hide around a statue and kind of sit there while you're looking around the corner. And I don't know,
Yeah.
I always just try to it's not that I don't want to talk to people, but like flying especially, I don't want to talk to you flying unless you're my co-pilot
Right.
and or my visual observer. And
Yeah.
I avoid people mostly because I don't want that interaction of like, hey, what are you shooting? Oh, that's cool. Oh, what? How much does it cost? Like, I'm working, and I
Yeah.
don't want to crash this. Like,
Yep.
I don't, and I don't. I'm never mean. I'm just like, hey, can we just like, not talk
Yeah.
for a sec?
Yeah, give me a minute. Yeah, that's why I also like having other people, like if we have a whole day of shooting and one part is drone, to be like, okay, you're the person who's going to intercept anyone who's coming over here to talk, so that we can keep flying. And that's the fun thing too, like with both what both of you are saying, and people not knowing and people asking questions. I don't know. Has this ever happened to you? It's happened to us where we're working for a big corporation and we're like, oh, okay, yeah, get drone shots of this. That'll look really cool. And then we're getting prepped, before we're on set. And then we essentially get a message like, we have a no drone policy, or like, you can't fly over this area type of policy. And, there's a little bit of conversation there because you may have a I can't be on your property and take off or land policy. But as soon as I'm, in the airspace above that blade of grass, that's the FAA, and the FAA says it's okay.
Yeah.
And obviously, you're working for a client. You don't want to be like, you're wrong, suck it. But we have filmed, like we were filming at a ski resort, and they're like, we have a no drone policy for safety reasons. And, we had a good back and forth, and we're like, well, here's all the safety precautions we take. And basically reassuring them that it would be completely safe and, everything's legit. But they're like, yeah, you can't fly over here. So what we had to do is like go to the other side of the street, not on their property, and then fly from right there. And, luckily with drone, you can still get really great shots from far away. in some instances. But have you ever experienced that where you're supposed to be doing drone, but then somebody tells you there's a policy that you can't drone, which is not legal, which is, them saying that is not technically legal?
So this can kind of segue into my first crash ever that happened this spring. So I was shooting for AT&T, and I was at the Michigan Bridge, Michigan Avenue Bridge, and I was trying to replicate a shot that they had sent me because it was, oh, no, I'm sorry, not AT&T, it was for Lyft, but they had sent over like a spec script with basic B-roll, and I was trying to replicate some of those shots. And I'm getting near the end of the battery. I'm like, all right, I got a couple more coming up, and there's some birds flying around, and I hadn't had a problem with them all morning, and then all of a sudden I get a bird strike, and the drone goes down, and
Oh my
I
gosh.
follow it. Yeah. And I'm like, oh no. Like the controller, my phone's going, meh, meh.
Oh.
I'm like, oh, because I still had a full day to shoot too. So I go over. It ended up landing in the front concrete courtyard of Trump Tower, downtown Chicago. And I get there, and I'm just like, it's in pieces. It's like seeing and I only had, this is the Inspire 2, and I had only had it. Yeah. I had it for. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's in pieces. Uh, so I start picking up, and a security guy comes out. I'm starting to hear that echo now. I know why it's getting annoying.
I think it might be. It's when I turn my mic on and off from like the separate mic, and when I first turn it back on, I think it doesn't do the background canceling appropriately until it figures out what it's doing. Go on with your story.
No. So I'm picking up the pieces, and I had my case with me. I'm literally just putting pieces in my road case. Like, I will figure this out later. And the security guard comes out, and he was, like well, what do we have here? And I'm like, well, I was shooting drone of the bridge, and a bird struck, and it fell about 40 feet onto your property. Right away I was like, I'm sorry, whatever. He's like, well, it's policy for the tower not to shoot drone. And then they're like, there's an ordinance passed by the city of Chicago that says drones aren't allowed to fly. I'm like, yeah, the ordinance is for non-commercial flyers. Yeah, like, I know the law. And he's like, well, our citizen, or our, nobody wants to see the drone fly by. I'm like, well, sir, I was shooting the bridge there. And like, this is probably the only time I ever got like short-tempered, because literally I'm just like thousands of dollars in my hand, and I'm just like, dude, I just want to get out of here. But yeah, I had an argument with them about the legality of it. I'm like, sir, I'm FAA certified. Like, I can pull the law out for you, but I'm really not that interested. So eventually I just, like, look, man, I'm picking up my pieces, and I'll get out of your hair. I apologize for the inconvenience. But yeah, it's never, and in a circumstance where that doesn't happen, I feel like, oh, we don't want you shooting around our building. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to go across the street and take off there. Like you said, it's airspace. It's not about land. They're in the air. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not like you could say or have authority of your property that no airplane flies over it. So it's
do you
like,
pay property taxes for the air above you? Like,
you can't not let airplanes fly over you. So clearly that's not yours to control. And I get, like the ski hill example, it's like, I get that you want, because you probably got a lot of like amateurs who want to, like,
teenagers want to show off. Yeah.
They want to film themselves skiing, but still, like, airplanes, helicopters, whatever, fly over the area. And part of the reason is because they're professionals, and it's not really a safety issue. And I think that's kind of the thing that should apply here too, that people don't realize is like, no, it's not a safety issue really. if you're professional, because the instance of anything happening is so minuscule. It's so small. Like,
Yeah.
Son of a gun! My whole audio was gone. Thanks, Hannah. I muted myself while you were talking. I'll say that again for the benefit of everyone at home. I was going to say I have 6 kids, and 5 of them have been born at home. And before you've done it, it is definitely scary because you're concerned about health and like what if something goes wrong. Well, how that really works is similar to drones. So I'm going to make this comparison in that you prepare, you understand how it works, you know the statistics, and if anything's going to happen, you take a look beforehand and you adjust the plan. You go to the hospital if you need to. And the likelihood that something actually happens that is unexpected is extremely small. Same thing with drone. You prepare, you research the area that you're in, you look at everything, and like, can you plan for a bird? No. However, I'm sure you are flying safe, not flying over anyone who's not participating. You have all your permissions. You've scoped out the area. You know the aircraft. You know the airspace. And the likelihood that something's going to happen is very, very small. What you can't plan for is a freaking bird being a bird. I've never hit a bird, and I know that's happened. But like, again, I think statistically that's not likely to happen. But you were prepared.
We did have an evil seagull
In Milwaukee.
He was circling one time.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at the video here where it shows me, I'm looking over like the 5-Surf Forum towards the lake, and it was only by the Milwaukee police station. But once I got in the air, all these seagulls, like 200 of them, kept like, I don't know, 50 feet near me and were swirling around, and I'm like, I never had a bigger panic attack in my life.
Yeah. Is that the night shot?
Yeah, it'll be after what's coming up, I believe.
So I want to talk about that night shot in a second too, but real quick, was it this one?
Yeah, like you can see.
That's amazing. That's so awesome.
Dude, I saw that. I'm like, I felt like I was in there, like I was in a helicopter myself, and I felt like I was gonna die.
I do want to talk about the crash too a little bit more. Let's see. So
destroyed my soul.
Yeah. Well, and insurance. What do you do for insurance? One thing people might not know is you can't cheaply or very effectively insure a drone because they do crash. But you can get insurance for property and people. How do you handle insurance? And what is the responsibility? Did you have any responsibility after that crash to report it or anything?
Because I did no property damage, I didn't have to report it. That's $500?
Yeah,
$750 more.
Yep.
Yeah, because it landed on concrete. Like, concrete was fine, as the drone that broke.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did have. I do pay a premium for insurance because it was one thing with a Phantom 4, something akin, where it's like, even if I crash this thing, it's not that expensive to replace. When you're dealing with these Inspires and everything higher, like, I didn't want to take the chance, and I'm so glad I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, my family, they're like half of them are insurance agents, so it
Oh,
was they did all the hard work for me. But I finally got something, and like I had to pay a deductible,
sure.
and the only problem I had is so the Inspire that I had bought had the unlocked licenses for DNG and ProRes, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the SSD card for it yet because they're way too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, for what it's what 250 gigs. If I shot on ProRes, I get like 4 minutes
Right.
on one
Yep.
card.
Yep.
Like but the card's like $400. I'm not going to pay that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in my head, I'm like, well, maybe I can find a way to 3D print, you know, the box and then buy my own SSD. So, but that was like something I was going to kick the
Oh,
can down
yeah.
for later. But so when I made my claim, I'm like, oh, by the way, I spent an extra $1,500 on these
Yeah.
licenses,
Unlocking the license. Yeah.
and they're not untransferable. Like they DGI tells you up front because DGI is the worst with customer service.
Mm.
So yeah, I'm still fighting with the insurance on that.
Oh,
Like
wow.
I don't know if I'll ever get that. I got enough to essentially pay for the base model. Luckily, my batteries. Oh no, my battery's totally busted on that.
Well, at
It's
least it
fine.
was only two, like we
Well,
have
and
10 or 12 batteries, and that would be nuts if you lost all those because those are, I don't
oh
remember, so expensive.
yeah, it's like 350 for two of them, and you need two to fly.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, it's it sucks. It is what it is. Definitely, I would still recommend the same. Like if you're buying a
Mm-hmm.
drone and it's like a Phantom 4 or a Mavic or something that could be easily like if you can walk into a Best Buy and buy it, like yeah, it's gonna suck, but
Yeah. The cost of
the
insurance
client,
wouldn't be worth it. Yeah.
yeah. But for these bigger rigs,
Yeah.
there's insurance companies out there slowly starting to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's just going to be a trial and error process until we get,
Yeah.
once Amazon starts delivering everything from drones, I think they'll
Well,
have insurance figured out.
and
Yeah.
I think we run into things like this because we are individuals and small companies. So if you want to flip it around to the positive side, I mean, this I was just thinking about this is probably something that we'll talk about during this conversation is like the kinds of shots that you can get. That just
Mm.
wasn't a thing that people at our scale could do
Yeah.
in the past because it was like you need a helicopter
Mm-hmm.
and a camera rig that's hooked onto that thing and whatever kind of licenses to get flown around there, and you got to pay for this other pilot and stuff, like. So that's on the flip side of it is like, yeah, you have a risk of crashing this smaller item and you might have to pay for it, but what are you able to shoot with it, at a lower cost, more flexibility.
Mm-hmm. That's
Well, it's such. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say real quick too. DJI has their own insurance. It's the one that I was gonna get, and now that you're like, I have insurance, I'm like, dang, we got to make sure we get that insurance because it covers like one or two crashes, and it's not super expensive every year. But our insurances, like our normal production insurance and other ones, were crazy expensive. So I would also be very interested if you don't mind sharing the information that with your insurance, if you don't mind sharing that with me, because we need that. But DJI does have that. I can't remember what it's called. It's like Apple Care essentially.
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't it DJI Care?
Yeah, yeah. It's like Apple Care. I mean, you pay yearly, and then they'll replace it up to twice, which for the money is definitely worth it.
So, by the way, so that one got replaced. So I get a brand new one, right? Great. So going back to the story when I was, I show up for a shoot and I have no I have no information. Even when I talk to the directors, like, yeah, we're just gonna fly. So what was it? August? Yeah, it was August. So I had to shoot in August, and it's exactly what I said. Like, he wanted, first of all, I was only supposed to work a half day. He wanted me 2 hours in the morning for first light, and then 2 hours in the evening for dusk. Fine, I'll split my day up that way. Everybody's hard up for cash. Like,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, I'm willing to bend. But like, I couldn't even get a location of like the city we were going to.
Oh boy.
So, yeah. So I'm set up. I'm ready to go. It was 3 hours before I even get in the air for the first time. And by that time, he was gonna be like, "Oh, I'm gonna direct you on what kind of shots I want." He's like, "Just go up and get things." So let's fast forward to past my lunch break. I've already worked a full day, and my intent was, I'm gonna be like, "Look, I'll stay and I'll finish the job, but we're renegotiating the rate."
Yeah.
So I'm flying, and I just made a dumb mistake, and I clipped a branch, and it fell about 10 feet,
Hmm.
and the arm separated from the center, and then a little disconnection there. So completely different from the crash I had earlier in the year, where it just basically exploded into a bunch of plastic pieces.
Yeah.
So in that case, it was my fault. I ended up finding a company out in New Jersey, where I could just mail it in, and I mean, there's a bunch of them out there. This is the only one where it looked like it would be the quickest,
Hmm.
because like drone nerds were like, they're like, hey, we're backed up for months, and I looked at a couple other places. So this is the only place that would
You're
take it
talking
in.
getting it repaired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to send it to an actual facility that dealt with DJI stuff. Because I did find
Yeah.
somebody local that could probably do it. They're good with electronics, but I'm like, ah. The gimbal got hit too, so I wasn't sure if the gimbal needed
Ooh.
work or something. So I was willing to pay the premium just to like ship it off, fix it. I think it cost $600. Although when I did get
Nice.
it back, the arm, the right arm, it was loose. Like, so when they first install and build the Inspire 2, they put like the sticky grip tape on the ends. So when they finally push it in, not only is it screwed in, but it gives it a little bit more grip.
Mm-hmm.
That they didn't replace. So then all of a sudden, like, if I would have flown that thing as is, like, that arm could have turned, the blades would have just,
Oh
gone
no.
whatever way they would have gone, and it would have flown and exploded.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of had to do my own inspection on it, and I tightened some screws and fixed it. I'm more comfortable
Nice.
with it now.
Yeah.
It still has a sensor problem that I'm trying to work on, but I can fly it, and
Sure.
it's safe. So
Well, that's kind of another lesson, is like, whether it's drone or almost anything, you kind of need to become your own technician on it. You can't just be like the homeowner that just hires, contractors for anything. It's like, this is your device, your tool. You need to know some of the basics about it, how to do some maintenance, maybe how to do some small repairs.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I'm gonna switch over to. I know you have some other footage. I'm gonna share some of our footage over here.
Ooh.
I mentioned this before. It's old. It's probably 2 years old. So since this time, we had the, not DJI. What is it? 3DR. We actually won one of these. This is funny too, that our website says the best equipment, and it has our old, outdated drone. John pointed that out to me like a month ago. We got to get the Inspire, because we have the Inspire 2 as well, with the X5S, which is great. But yeah, we had these 3DRs, which were fantastic, because I still think they're a great company. They just decided to get out of the consumer space and go.
I loved the idea of them because, well, because you mentioned, Chad, the whole issue about, you get this drone and then you've got to also buy these licenses, and just the way of that business model. like, oh, here's this thing. Oh, you actually want to use it? Okay, that's going to cost extra.
Mm-hmm.
The 3DR was designed to be more open source,
Mm-hmm.
and so in theory, there were going to be the potential for updates where people added new features and
Mm-hmm.
things, and they were even showing some of the stuff where they
Yeah.
were like taking these drones, connecting them to a tether down to like a big battery on the ground,
And having a
and
light. Yeah.
using the drone to bring a light up into the air so that you could be like in the mountains and like send a light up, 20
Yeah.
feet, so that you're getting kind of like an edge light on somebody and then do some photography, which I was just like, that's amazing. That's so creative. But like Ryan said, they bailed on the videography, filming market, and I think they only do like site.
It's all about scanning. I think all this has been repurposed into site scan stuff for farmers
Gotcha.
and people with land. And, they even had a 360 drone. So a camera on top, camera on the bottom. It was this drone, but a modification of this. Like, that's why it was so interesting. We had bought one, and then we went to NAB, and then I won one, which was crazy too.
I do remember that.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see. So you did have that. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say I've been thinking about, especially having 2 crashes this year. I think I'm gonna buy a mini, just like
Yeah.
a little drone where if the world ends,
You can
I
still
still
get a
got
shot.
that tiny
Yeah.
little thing, and I can still
Yep.
get a shot.
I mean, and it's all comparable to all this because this is on our 3DR, which had a Hero 4. It's probably these days even better. You're talking the Mavic Mini, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think they just announced a mini too, but
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm not familiar either with the Pro versus the Mini, but even this, like, this is just GoPro footage, and I don't remember. It was probably shot True Tone or whatever the flat format is, but it still has all that data and you can pull back that information. You had that one shot that was at night, and that's one thing I'm kind of close to. So without a authorization, you can shoot a half an hour before sunrise and half an hour after. However, you are supposed to have those
Bright lights.
Yeah, the lights on them. Did you have those for that shoot, or was it close enough that you're like, it's getting dark?
It was one of those things where I played it close to the vest. I probably went a little over, but I like once it got dark, I'm like I'm done. And when I was shooting this, we were starting to get longer days anyways. So I don't know. I had a lot of low light stuff. Even this stuff I shot in the neighborhood where the woman in the documentary lost her life. Even that, like, it looks dark, but I'm still shooting at sunset within that half hour, 40-minute mark. But
yeah,
so I'm all for the rules. I think they're definitely necessary. I think it's still a new thing, and it's ever evolving, where we really haven't figured out a more simplistic way. Because like I couldn't get a waiver to fly at night because I got contacted about this job like, I don't know, a week and a couple days before. So
right.
I love the fact that we have the instant air access app. Like I love that. But it's not available in all airports. I still run into issues where I get sent somewhere where I can't get any clearance to fly. But I do my best. But at the end of the day, Papa's got to get paid, especially during a pandemic. So I may have gone a little bit over.
Yeah. Well, and until, I don't know, several months ago, until I reread some of the specs, I thought that you didn't need lights until after half an hour or before a half an hour. Like I just misunderstood that. So I had been flying, right, before sunrise and right after. You still have light, obviously, but you're technically supposed to have those lights. So I, had misread that, and now I know better and can get some of those lights, which is not that big of a problem. But
No, they're pretty cheap.
yeah, getting that
Well,
authorization can be difficult.
That was the challenge when drones really started becoming more of a thing in the industry, is that the government bodies that regulate the rules of what you can do with them are behind the pace of commercial need. Like
Yeah.
we need these things to be updated. We need them to respond faster, at the speed of business, but they're not used to doing that. Like, so you can't, it's like, I need access because I have a shoot, in 2 days. But you're on some sort of 90-day waiting list for something. And it's like, that just doesn't work.
Well, and it's nice. They came out with the LANC system, which gets us part of the way there, where I can get permission, the same hour that I'm going to shoot in a lot of cases. But I think one of the specific ones you're talking about too is like, we're trying to fly within a very small mileage from the airport, and we can't get any permission. We've done Lank, and that's the only way you can submit it. And I've done it 5 or 6 times up to 3 months in advance, and I still haven't gotten permission. It's a nightmare, and we'll be responsible and do it, but we didn't end up flying because we couldn't get that very specific clearance.
Well, and we all have different personalities, but to me, it just encourages more inclination to bend or break the rules if there's just not a rule that is built to work for reality. Like I always go back to this example. It's an old example, not related to drone work, but Napster came out. Everybody was downloading music illegally, just pulling it down. And there were just fights about whether you could or couldn't do that. And Apple, very smartly just said, here's songs for $1. And it made it easy enough that it made it easier to just follow the rules. Now, there's still some people that, too cheap for $1, but for the most part, if you make rules that work, with reasonable constraints, it's just easier to follow them. Right. But if you don't have an option, if you're like, there's no option, you haven't given me a way to follow your rules to get a shot or to shoot in this area or to get, after sunset shots or whatever, you kind of leave people with no choice. That's I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that we're still waiting for some of those agencies to catch up.
And I know I should, like, especially with drone and representing the community, I should follow 100% of the rules. But I again, especially as a freelancer, like, I don't really have a choice to show up and then just say I can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a safe way to do it. Now, if I'm like being asked to fly around the Capitol building with no permission, it'd be like, no, that's not happening. Like, we'll go as far as or as close as we can. We'll fly there. Like, that's just how I'm going to do it. So I always keep control of I keep control of the client's expectations, but like, of course I want to get the shot and make it look great. But again, if it's going to get me in trouble,
yeah,
where's that on the scale? And, is it worth it? Or is it not? So
there's a good question from Warren, asking if you've ever done any international drone work, and then do you know anything about the authorization requirements there?
I was asked at one point to price something out to shoot in Canada. And there, I believe it was by province, but it was still similar, same thing where Canada has their own air authority with their government. So it would have been a matter of, in that case, like I wouldn't have like second guessed any authority, like get all the permits, get all the licenses, whatever I need, especially if I'm in a foreign country.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I don't know too much. I would love to shoot in a foreign country.
Mhm.
But that's the thing now. Like, and there are drone pilots that fly around the world and do this, but most of the times you can find people like me in any major city around the world. And if not, you can always find a 14-year-old, you know,
Yeah.
like, and again, probably might not look as good, but it's one of those things where, it's a specialty,
Hmm.
but it's not that special.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think you hit it on the head. It's, kind of doing that research and looking things up because let's see, over here. So this stuff, this resort beach, this is all in the British Virgin Islands. So this is Tortola, my best friend wedding, back in 2016. And I brought the drone and I researched, and basically my research told me that the BVI didn't have any restrictions at the time.
Yeah.
And so I was prepared, I kind of did my research. I kind of looked up English law, British Virgin Islands, looked up the English law, which didn't really say much about territories or anything. And then the BVI didn't say much. And I was ready to say, oh, no, I'm just doing this for fun. Or alternatively, if you can do it commercially, like, sure, I'm doing it commercially. Whatever, would have worked at the time. It's an island. There's no airplanes. There's no helicopters. There's nothing in the air. So I wasn't concerned from a safety reason at all. And there was almost no one on the beach. It was very empty, which was amazing. So I was not flying over people. There was nothing in the air. I was super confident in my research as well as just the overall safety when I went there back 4 years ago.
I sometimes, especially because I'll get asked to do freebie stuff or help somebody out. And especially when I first got the Inspire, I was like, I just want to fly. I've had it in a box since January, and it's now March. So there were a couple things I did this year where I didn't get paid for it, but that opens you up to, hey, I'm flying for fun, and you really don't. I mean, I still follow my own rules, and I don't fly like an idiot, but there are those instances where, you can get away with it if you're just like, hey, man, I'm not getting paid, so I can just fly.
Mm-hmm.
As long as I'm not as long as I'm not in Chicago, apparently.
Well, and there's different rules for commercial flight, and a lot of that includes authorization. You have to have your Part 107 if you're going to fly commercially. If you're not flying commercially, in cases like, for instance, outside of an airport, you could just fly. You can fly as a hobbyist, but if you are getting paid, you are supposed to have your Part 107 exemption so that the government is aware of you. You're not dropping guns into prisons or, I don't know. I feel like if you're on the internet, you've given up a lot of your information and
and it's
your cell phone. You've given up everything.
Your cell phone, exactly. Your privacy. So just another federal check on your credibility, like not a big deal to me, as a producer.
It's funny to me, and again, this gets to the backwardsness of a lot of regulations. Sometimes, if you're flying commercially, you've got to have these licenses, for different business and commercial protections. But then you're stuck with more strict rules about what you can do when you're flying.
Mm-hmm.
But you're a professional. You're more professional than the hobbyist that can just go do whatever. So,
well, and like an example now, do you mind if I do a screen share? Or are you gonna play something else?
Here, let's see. Let me make sure I can switch over to your screen share. Okay, go for it.
All right. Maybe. It's not letting me screen share. Oh, wait, there we go. Sorry. So, we shot a feature this summer. I mean, I didn't get paid for drone, so I didn't consider myself getting paid for drone on the shoot. And I didn't shoot at night, but I definitely did a lot of stuff at dusk. Like, here, this is the last shot of the film. But this was, I don't know, we were in Koreatown, probably about 10 minutes from downtown. I checked to see if what clearances I need. I needed none. Like, I was fine. I flew within Part 107, but if anybody came up to me, I'm like, I'm just flying, bro. But it was also nice because I drove across the country to get to California. So I took a couple stops. This is at a campsite in Utah. Probably find a better shot. Oh, there we go. That was one thing I've always wanted to do, was take a road trip by myself, and then especially with a drone. So I did stop at a couple cool places, but then
That's awesome.
my favorite part was we kind of shot one of the scenes on the lower left there on that path. So while they were shooting all that A-roll, I just kind of flew around and got some mountains, got a shot of the city in the reverse.
Did you have any interference issues with all those towers there, with the radio frequency and stuff?
A little bit. I found I couldn't fly too far away. Not that I was flying without not within VLOS, but like I would get random messages, like it would drop out, but it came back in pretty easily.
And another question: so the Inspire 2 is the quadcopter. What camera gimbal do you have? Which is one package?
The 5 was the XFS5
X5S. Yeah.
Yes.
The stuff looks great.
Yeah, the lens is pretty versatile. I mean, as long as you have light. And again, this is in D-Log, so no, it ended up turning out pretty good. Here's I don't know if you can see him. That's what.
Nice.
Here we go. Yeah, that's Klein right there.
Who's been on the show? Yeah.
Yeah, TC's there. Some
Also
of the actors
been on the
are
show.
sound guy. Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Here, I'll get out of here. Maybe. Why? Sorry, I'm trying to get out of the screen share and it's not letting me do it.
Here, I think I can kick you out.
Get rid of me.
Yeah, let's see.
You've seen enough.
There you go. Let's see. And I have some of this Capitol, so we just went around the Capitol thinking, hey, let's just get some footage. Let's get some interesting footage.
Do you guys license this out for stock at all, or?
That's the plan.
Okay.
And you can see, this is right at dawn, I think it was. But yeah, our plan is to, obviously keep it for ourselves, but then also license it out. Which it was such a blast. Also had to deal with the cops, but I got a picture of us and the cops there, which is always fun. I like to do that. Like, hey, can we get a pic with you? Like, thanks, you're so kind.
Oh yeah, and this is the one where, because I think I was there talking to the guy as well, and they had all these things, but there are all these questions, and then we're like showing them documentation, and they're just like, "Oh, I'm not sure what this is," and they were like having to call superiors and things. It was like, we were through the proper channels. I don't know how to, educate you on what that we have the right license to do this.
Right.
And I think they eventually did get it sorted out though.
Yeah, and the biggest thing with the Madison police is for safety the Capitol Police, different than the Madison police. The big difference is they don't like people taking off and landing on the Capitol property, which they can absolutely say. So I filmed an event that was at the Capitol a few weeks ago, and I was flying and everything was fine. And then I actually talked to one of the Capitol Police, and they were like, okay, sounds good. Thanks for letting us know. And then half an hour later, another one came over and just had different opinions and was like, yeah, we just don't like you guys taking off and landing here. I was like, okay, are you okay if I fly from across the street? You know, I was like, actually, I probably didn't ask it like that. I was like, okay, well, I'm totally happy to go across the street and I can take off and land over there. We're not on the Capitol property. And then we'll just be filming over our people. And that was when that conversation was like, well, you can't fly over people. And I was like, well, people who are materially participating in the event, I can. And he's like, oh, I didn't realize that. And I was like, yep, here's, the authorization. And the authorization just lists the standard kind of Part 107 requirements. Because you do need airspace authorization here because it's within a couple miles of the airport. But yeah, you can, these are some of my favorite shots, the top down ones.
Yeah, the symmetry looks really good.
Yeah. So maybe we can sell this at some point. I know Luke was kind of prepping it all. Whoa. Yeah, super cool. And I mean, that's the tough thing too. Like, you've got the blazing sun and then you've got like darkness and you're trying to get both of them. That's what I love about these systems is, I am losing a little bit of that, but I'm getting most of it. And, a little crazy highlight like that's okay.
Especially in the morning too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, there's a lot of shots here. Whoa.
Whoa.
So much fun. You got to come out here sometime and we should fly. That'd be really fun to do.
It would be. Oh, I was going to say a bonus for having to buy a new drone or insurance buying a new drone. I got 2 controllers without having to purchase a second one. Sort of.
Oh my gosh,
you know
that's
what I mean?
so awesome. Yeah. For all this, I had Luke flying the drone and I was doing the camera.
Yeah, that's the one thing I haven't done with the Inspire yet. I don't have a co-pilot, and I think I definitely know if I would have had a co-pilot on the day I was getting rushed, I wouldn't have made that mistake. But I definitely want to utilize having a cam op while I just fly, because like I'm.
Oh my gosh!
I can frame, I can do that stuff, but I'd rather have my DP be like, here, man, I'm gonna fly it, you frame it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those 2 types of controls are so different too. Like, I was flying drone the other day by myself, and I hadn't flown by myself in a while, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember how hard this is now.
Yeah.
Because typically I'll just be like, hey Luke, here's kind of the pattern that I'm thinking, and he'll fly it and we'll adjust it, and then I just do camera. There's only, if we're doing a lot of rotations, and we go 270 degrees, and then I get stuck. Because the camera can't turn infinitely. It can turn, I don't know if it's 270 or a little more, but it can turn most of one way, and then it's got to reset to go, the other way as well. I guess it could only go like 270 in one direction and 270 in the other, but then you can't keep going because it can't keep spinning.
Well, and it makes sense because if you put a camera in front of your face and then start walking around, you're going to have some problems, likely bump into things. It's challenging, if you're trying to like control the movement through the thing that you're trying to focus on, getting your shot.
I definitely have found myself, especially with the Inspire, using Active Track more. Like, I never really was into the presets with the Phantom 4 because, like, I'm pretty smooth. Like, the way I shoot now, unless the client wants 24 frames or 30, whatever, I normally like shooting at 60. Because it's kind of smooths it out, especially with the Phantom 4. You get like some an air gust, and you're getting your perfect shot, and you get a little jiggle. In that 60 frames, it just doesn't. It's not as noticeable. But I still found it, like, just with how the Inspire 2 is built and what it can do, like, I found it a little bit helpful. Like, if I would have shot the Capitol and I needed to get the statue at the top, like I probably would have like highlighted it and then flown a circle just to get it a little bit smoother.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm pretty steady at doing like a, at least getting over 180 degrees in a direction while keeping my frame steady.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's definitely practice. Like the first time I flew it, it was like upgrading to like a sports car uh,
Yeah.
from the Phantom 4.
Yeah.
So um,
Yeah, I completely agree with that. We are kind of wrapping up here. It's about 1:15 or almost 1:20. That's awesome. The most entertaining. I feel like we haven't gotten very far, and that's what I was. I knew our conversation on anything would be like this. We just get talking, and then holy crap, an hour and 20 minutes has gone by. I did want to see if you had any other tips. We've kind of talked about legal flying and the responsibility we have there. We've talked about crashing and insurance. Are there any other tips that you wanted to, share?
So at least if you're going to go for your 107, either try taking one of those online classes, or I actually took a class in Madison through
Oh,
Pointner.
nice.
Their drone journalism school essentially is what it was.
Oh, very cool.
Even if you think you're good, it's like when I got my motorcycle license. You remember Andy Siskowski?
Oh, yeah,
from Kenosha?
absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. He bought a motorcycle without getting any training, because you can just get your temps and ride a motorcycle in Wisconsin. It's really stupid. And he crashed 3 times.
Oh,
and
my
I'm like,
gosh.
dude, we're going to go to a motorcycle class. We're going to get certified, and you're not going to crash anymore. And that's it. And like, you learn the rules. It's so much easier
Let's see.
to be armed with the knowledge.
Right.
Especially when you find yourselves in these situations where you're going to have to talk to police, you're going to have to talk to citizens, you're going to have to talk to people that immediately are going to be hostile towards you.
Mm-hmm.
And 9 times out of 10, if you're just armed with your knowledge and nice about it, and even sometimes, like, your drone can go up and hover until it runs out of battery. So if somebody's coming up and giving you the business, like, yo, this is what I'm shooting. You can even invite them to, like, look, you can see what I'm doing. I'm not flying towards your window and looking at your unmentionables. I'm not spying on your dog.
Yeah.
I'm not, like, I'm just here to do my job.
Right.
So if you're level-headed about everything, especially when you're flying a drone, that can potentially hurt somebody if you're not careful with it.
Mm-hmm.
If you keep a level head throughout the whole thing, you'll be fine. Just be smart about it.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at your dog's unmentionables.
That happened to us one time when we were flying downtown, and it was the first time I think I'd been flying downtown. We had a blanket authorization for like a year, which was awesome. This was before the LANC system, and the FAA gave us, like, I think it was a whole 12 months. It might have been 18 months of being able to fly around the Capitol, which was cool. Cops came. I talked to them. I was like, hey, I talked to the detective in charge of this downtown or whatever. And they're like, yeah, I totally understand. The government types in the government buildings, they always call when something is happening. They're always worried that people are spying on them. So, I just got to come down and check out, and looks like everything's being legit. So I'm just going to take information down. I'm going to go call it in and let you know if I have any questions, and then you'll be good and you'll be on your way. And, like, again, just so kind.
It's just not worth the hassle, especially if you're working for a different company and you're representing a big brand, or even if you're representing yourself. Like, there's no reason to go into any confrontation with police or whoever with a hot head. Like, you're in the right. You don't have to be a jerk about it.
Well, and that's something that we learn in our courses, and that they tell us is, like, for your part 107 is, like, if an authority comes up and says stop filming, you're probably going to stop filming. It's not, in most cases, worth the fight. You can move, you can do something else. If it's the police, like, if you have the right of way, they can still be like, well, you're disturbing the peace, you know? So if they ask you to stop or move, you stop or move. Or, and I think like in the test too, it's like, what if an FAA official talks to you? It's like, I don't know that FAA officials are walking around, but yes, we will listen to them.
They are, but I mean, I don't think the FAA has the budget to have,
Yeah.
multiple FAA agents, roaming around the streets of Madison looking for people breaking the
Right.
the air law.
It's just kind of common sense. So we are wrapping up. I don't know if you've seen the show before, but this is the time when we're going to play Two Truths and a Lie. And it's mostly for me because I just love to get to know people better. John and I have been playing this for like 30 episodes, so there's not a lot of ground to cover, but I think I've got some good ones that I can stump John with. And I think I've got some good ones that relate to you, Chad. So this will be really fun, and we'll see how you remember some of these events. So I will go first, and then we'll go John, and then we'll save you for last, Chad, just to give you a moment to think about these things. Yeah, Two Truths and a Lie. I'm going to get maybe our kids, maybe like all the backflip kids together, and they'll be like, Two Truths and a Lie. And then that'll be our little stinger transition. All right. So, number one, when we were working at Tinseltown, I convinced you and somebody else to break a table in like a body slam. We were like into wrestling at the time, and you and the other person got in trouble by our good friend TC, who was a manager, and I did not get in trouble. I got away scotch-free. Or is it scot-free? I don't know. Scott or scotch. I got free on one of those. So that's one of my three truths. I'm going to tell you three truths. Another one is that we watched, you, me, and TC, and probably about 10 other people. Now I'm forgetting the name of the movie. Anchorman. We watched Anchorman in a like early screening, make sure the print works. And it was hilarious. Basically, everyone was just rolling in laughter the entire time. Great memory of mine. So that was one of the screeners that we watched as a big group. And it might have been before groups got limited. I can't remember. And then the third one is that one time you and I were both, I forget what it was. What do we call it? Cleaning. You could be in box, you could be in concessions, or you could be, what's the third thing?
Booth.
Well, eventually you could go to booth, but
usher,
like as peons, usher. Yeah. So we were ushers. And it was white chicks, and they had great music at the end. And one time you and I were ushing together, and it might've been a weeknight, and White Chicks was on, and we watched the last scene and the credits, and it was, it's pretty funny, that movie, even though it's super inappropriate. But I remember us having a little dance party as ushers to the credits at the end there.
So I'm supposed to pick out which one, the two truths and the lie?
Well, I mean, if you pick out the lie, that discerns the truths. And
I think
vis-a-vis.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm gonna let's let John go first, because
okay,
these are three events that you were in, so you might have a better idea. And John just has no idea.
What was the second one? Just briefly.
Anchorman. Screening Anchorman.
Oh yeah, screening Anchorman, and it was an amazing experience. We're all laughing so hard.
I'm gonna say you didn't get away scot-free. You got in trouble as well. You were reprimanded.
Yeah, that's a good guess. Yeah, and TC was the one doing the reprimand, which is the best part. Those watching at home, please do put your guesses in. All right, what do you got, Chad?
I think it's the Anchorman one. Just sheer fact that I don't think I was at the theater when Anchorman came out, but I definitely
Oh.
remember doing wrestling moves and and breaking things. And I definitely remember dancing at credits for most movies. The best being the end of A Knight's Tale, because that whole
Oh my gosh.
soundtrack is just AC/DC.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I would take the broom and I would do my best Angus Young, and like
That's
I even
amazing.
got tipped $5 once because I danced at the end of the movie, and then they went to go talk to Landon about how I was a model employee, and all I was doing was like goofing around. So it was great.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Um, so I don't know if I win or I lose. I thought you were there for Anchorman.
No,
You don't think you were?
no, because
Ah,
I never saw Anchorman in the theater.
so that's an accidental lie. I swore
So
you were there because I remember it fondly, like just with the Tinseltown people, and I put, you're obviously a major part of that. So I've always put you into that memory. So in
That's
my
okay.
mind, you're in there. So that was an
Or
accidental lie.
did you watch the Hulk with us, the Ang Lee one?
I did watch that one. Yeah.
uh, I got slaughtered and made fun of because I was so hyped for that movie
Oh my gosh.
and I wanted it to be good. And
Yes. And people, yeah,
you
people were not
guys
kind.
tore me apart.
I mean, I
To the
don't, I
point
don't
where it's like,
remember
I'm not
myself
crying,
being
you're
mean.
crying.
Yeah. But I do remember things happening and then being, people turning to you. I'm trying to think of like maybe who was the worst. We won't name
Bubbly
names.
and Siskowski.
I do
I'll
remember
name
that.
him.
Friends.
Yeah.
So then the third one, I do remember you doing, dancing and doing things like that. I was trying to get us on a technicality that I don't ever recall that happening to White Chicks. Because I feel like White Chicks was out when maybe it wasn't the summer. And so, during the week, you've got like one usher. So I feel like I was always alone, and I always loved watching that last scene and the credits of White Chicks. And so I was trying to get on a technicality. So I think the bottom line is that I just lose because I inserted you into my other memories. All right, that's what we got for me. So now John's up, and then we'll go for Chad. Aaron Williams says Hulk was a fine movie. I'd have to watch the Ang Lee one again. I feel like there's just so many. There's two things. Is it Hulk? Is it Marvel Hulk? And then is it a good movie? And I think there's a lot of challenges to both of those points. But maybe that'll be the next time we have Chad on to talk about the Hulk.
I thought it was pretty good in my recollection. Although I'm not sure that, like, looking back on it, I'm not sure that I love. Is that the one? It's not our recent guy, and it's not.
No, it's I want to say
It's a pretty.
Steve Bannon. Steve Banner. Steve. His name is so close.
The actor who played
Yeah,
Hulk,
He's the pretty guy, right?
Eric Bana.
Eric Bana. Yeah, I was like, it's so close to like.
So that's the one where I think the thing I maybe don't like about that one is that Hulk, like, he apparently has like tick like jumping ability or something, or like a flea. I don't know.
Remember that.
Doesn't he like jump like all over the place?
Yeah.
That checks
like
out,
a
though.
flea.
That's comic, legit.
Okay.
Eric Bana playing Bruce Banner. That was always confusing to me. Steve Bana. All right, John, what do you got?
All right. I've never lost one of our drones. I've been in 4 car accidents.
Mm-hmm.
My friend's parents walked out of White Chicks when Amanda forced me to watch it.
Your friend's parents walked out of it when you were
Yes.
forced to watch it?
Yes.
Were your friend's parents with you?
Yeah. We at my friend's house. We were at my friend's house.
So your friend's parents walked out of their own house.
They walked out of the living room. They could not handle it. It was so bad.
Just so you're aware, Chad, follow-up questions are encouraged. All right. So what do you got? You've never lost one of our drones. Are you considering it like irreplaceably lost or temporarily lost?
I don't know.
Like, oh, I left it under my bed.
Because I can talk through this. I've dropped a drone in Lake Michigan. You have also flown as the same drone or the other drone over Lake Michigan and lost signal. So I know that's happened. But you didn't eventually lose it. It eventually came back. Or you eventually got signal and you got it back.
That's very nice of it.
And then number 3 was your friend's parents walked out of White Chicks when you were watching it at their house, which I love the theme of White Chicks in this episode. Or what was number 2? A crash 4 times.
4 car accidents.
Okay. I'm gonna let you go first on this one, Chad, because I think I have a better sense of what it could be.
Now, when we say car crashes, are we talking about like major, like, totaled out your car and you had to go to the hospital, or like fender benders, or
not all
somebody
total,
rear-ended?
not all totaled, but all enough to result in a report and an insurance situation. And
I'm gonna that seems feasible. All right, because I probably had about the same amount of crashes in my life. All right, I'm gonna say the drone.
The drone one?
Yes.
Let's see. Yeah, I don't think it's the drone one for the reasons that I said. I think it's the White Chicks one because I think you just pulled that out and it's really wild. And maybe you walked out.
No,
maybe
I want to believe that's real.
Aaron Williams says, "Do I need to see White Chicks now?" It's hilarious and not PC. It would not fly these days, but it's pretty funny. So I'm gonna guess the White Chicks thing. So Chad's got the drone. I got the White Chicks.
All right. Well, I may have messed up too.
No.
I was trying to lie about the drone.
3 truths and a truth.
I was trying to lie about the drone, but your follow-up question was breaking the
I destroyed it. Yeah.
situation. So then I was like, well, I don't even know. I have to further the lie with another lie in order to keep it a lie.
You guys, this is your game.
I know. Well, we're getting too complex. I mean,
Chad's like, I'll come back, but
level.
you got to get your shit together.
Yeah, we're at master level chess playing here. We're like, trying to weave in and out of storylines. So yeah, I said I never lost the drone was my lie because I was counting that as it was a pretty big loss for a while. I was flying out. Where the heck is it's Bay Lake Bank is who I was flying for. It's up near Door County. I forget the town. There's a nice little lighthouse out there, and I was doing a little loop around the lighthouse over the bay, as it were, and very like overcast, gray kind of day. And I was flying that old white DJI drone, and it got out there, and I was just looking at the FPV. Big mistake. I had a PA with me. He was supposed to have been watching it, and my FPV blipped out, and I looked up, and I was like, "Oh crap! I can't see it. Like it's too far." And it was just, we're looking out and I'm like, is that it? And it's like, no, that's a seagull, because it was like gray, kind of overcast. You just could not see any definition against the sky. And we start running down this dock or this pier to just try to get, 100, 200 yards closer to the thing to try to see where it is out over Lake Michigan. And finally, we kind of catch a speck out on the horizon, and we're like, okay, I'm pretty sure that's the drone, but I
Yeah.
still don't have any like FPV of it or anything. So I don't know what way it's pointed or anything. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do a move here, and you tell me what direction you think it's headed. I start doing something, and he's like, I think it's going away. And I just like quickly like stop the controls, go the other direction. We finally can see that it's like headed our way. Also in the back of my mind, I got a mental clock running on like how much battery is left.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so and I just start racing it toward the shore because I'm like, if if I crash it into the shore, at least we'll like have it back and have the footage versus like dumping it in the lake. And we're like running down this pier, and there's like some kid and their parent, like, "Hey, do you guys have a drone?" Or just like, "Quiet, can't talk."
Pushed him out of the
uh,
way into the water.
yeah. So that was supposed to be my lie. I've been in 4 accidents. One of them was bad. Almost killed my whole family. Not great. Also a foggy night. Um, really weird turn in the road situation. It was like a confusing signage on an S curve, and I kind of missed the sharper turn on like and got off onto the gravel enough to dip down into the ditch. But then instead of recovering the way I had hoped, I just hit like a driveway coming sideways, and um, which deployed airbags, and things got crazy. So that was a thing, and then other little, fender bender things. Um, and then what was my last one? White Chicks. Oh my gosh. I probably have a complete opposite opinion. That's the worst movie I've ever seen. I knew it as it was starting. My who was my girlfriend at the time. I was actually living at a friend's house in a summer that my parents had moved to a different city, but I still had a job in our hometown for the summer. Um, so I lived at a friend's house, and Amanda came over with a movie and wanted to watch White Chicks. And we were a few minutes in, and I wanted to stop it. It was so bad. And she's like, no, no, just give it a chance. Well, then my friend's parents come home. I think he was actually on a date with his girlfriend somewhere else. It was just this weird situation. Like, friend's parents come home. Oh, you guys watching the movie? Oh, we'll watch it with you. And they like sit down, and we're just like all watching this movie. And it's so bad. And they're kind of like, I just could feel the awkwardness. And they're just like, yeah, I can't finish this thing. And they both just got up and like went in the other room. So there you go. Okay.
and to Aaron Williams, yes, you should totally see it. It's hilarious.
I said definitely not, would not recommend Zero Stars.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So Chad kind of wins that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Chad, what do you got for us?
We all went. What do I have? Okay.
Yeah.
I have so at Tinseltown in the booth we had for a while called the Wall of Shame, and we would just put posters up there of movies that were terrible, and White Chicks was one of those movies.
I 100% believe that. Yeah.
My second one is what did I write? Oh, no. I screwed that up. Okay. So a few years ago, we were doing a spec on something, and we made this like wheel of shame or whatever, and I ended up winning the game. It was a video game contest. I ended up winning, and Jeff lost, and he pulled Cinnamon Challenge, and as a token of brotherhood and friendship, I offered to do the cinnamon challenge with him. What did I do? I took a spoonful of cinnamon, I ate it, and I immediately puked on the back behind your garage at the studio. Yeah. And for at least a year or two, there was a stain of brown on the blacktop before it finally washed off. I do remember that.
I do believe that's 100% true as well.
Absolutely 100% sure. I will never forget that. And then
It was immediate. It was immediate bite. Just not puke, but just spit of all the powder, and then just dealing with that.
Oh, it was so stupid. That's the
amazing.
dumbest thing. Top 3 dumbest things I've ever done. And then my other truth is every time, and I haven't visited you guys in a while, but every time I come visit, I go in the back where all the Costco snacks are, and I take a few boxes and bring them home.
All right, John.
Although the last time I visited, I didn't do that because you guys weren't there. And I felt weird about stealing your food if you guys weren't there.
You said boxes of stuff?
Oh, yeah, boxes. Crates, even.
So White Chicks on the Wall of Shame in the booth at Tinseltown, Cinnamon Challenge and puking, and then the brown stain, and that was there for years. And then 3 stealing boxes of treats every time you come by. All right, what do you got, John?
Well, White Chicks is the worst movie ever, so that has to be true, that it's on a wall of shame. I wasn't there for the Cinnamon Challenge thing, but I did see the stain for a while. I don't think Chad's taken full boxes of Costco treats, but I wouldn't blame him if he did.
All right, so your guess is number 3?
Yeah.
Boxes. I'm going to go with that too, boxes. I feel like you're a very kind person, and unless you made it into like a joke or something, I feel like you'd feel bad if you just took boxes and you've never told us until now. So I feel like you'd feel bad about doing that. Certainly taking a snack or some snacks would be reasonable.
What an amazing con though that would be, to have that be the truth.
Yes.
Oh man, now I really want it to be the truth. That this whole 7 years I've just been secretly stealing your Costco snacks.
So I mean, I feel like that's the admission of the lie.
Oh yeah, totally.
Oh.
You guys have really good snacks though, so
please feel free to take
glad
snacks.
You wouldn't blame me if I did steal them.
Yeah, no blame here. And I was trying to think, I never made it to the booth. I think I assisted or helped out once in a while in the booth, but I left, after high school. I mostly didn't work there, so I don't know that I was ever responsible enough to be in the booth.
Yeah, I mean, it was great if you like being secluded.
I love being secluded.
Yeah, it was actually pretty nice when you got booth. And then all you had to do was cut trailers together, and it was easy.
Yeah, switch a platter occasionally, hit the start button.
Yeah. Big part, no customer service.
Mm-hmm.
You are literally alone. It's great.
Although I did love customer service, and I did love concession. I did love guessing people's drinks. Like somebody walks up and you're like, fruit punch or Diet Coke. You just know. We're totally profiling. But yeah, that's all we got for this week. Chad, is there anything that you can promote or you want to share, or?
I mean, I work on random stuff right now. We have a film, the footage I showed you from LA, hopefully will come out by Christmas, because it is a Christmas film.
That's right. Yeah.
We're working on distribution now, and we're in color and some VFX. So,
is there a name?
I believe we settled on A Christmas Sunset.
A Christmas Sunset. A COVID tale.
Yeah. But, man, we didn't even get into that. But we did a lot. John and I over the summer took a COVID compliance officer class, and we're certified. So nice. I've actually been getting calls from random productions to be like, hey, can you be our compliance officer? Which is really just make sure everything's clean, make sure people are wearing PPE, and that's it. So it was a challenge, but hopefully all our hard work pays off and we can get it released and I don't care about making money. I just want it to be shown, you know?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's a Christmas sunset. So we're looking out for that before Christmas, hopefully, right?
Yeah. I'm assuming some sort of stream service, or we'll release it ourselves.
Awesome. Yeah, and I believe everyone can find you. Let's see, I can do this. Find you online as El Punisher. Watch this. I'll change our title.
I think my Instagram is at StayAtHomeChad.
Oh.
Or no. It's
That's a good
it
one.
was StayAtHomeChad. I think it's I don't know. I'm dumb. I don't know. I barely use social media anymore, so I can't even keep up with
Whoa.
what I have.
The Soch.
Yeah, so I mean, you could look up Stay at Home Chad or El Punisher. Maybe we'll find Chad. But thank you so much for coming on and just hanging out with this happy hour. It was really good to see you and talk about some fun stuff. Next week we actually had a change, so we were going to have Ashley Taylor, who's local AAF Madison president, come on and talk just about her experiences. She's also a TV executive or account executive. So just kind of talk about her experiences. She had to move for a client, but we're actually going to have Molly Luksick, who's creative director of Central Midwest Ballet, come on. We'll talk to her about dancing, ballet, running her academy, as well as marketing. So that'll be fun. Tune in next week for that. Aaron Williams says, hugs and kisses, Chad.
He's freelance Chad.
Yeah,
Freelance
that's it.
Chad.
He's freelance Chad on Instagram.
There we go. So we got that down there. Follow Chad. Check out all the cool stuff he does. Tune in to the History Channel for reruns of Milwaukee Blacksmith, I believe, where you can see Chad play a Star Wars enthusiast and buy a $10,000 Death Star fire pit, which was all fake, but Chad got to keep it, which was amazing.
Kind of wish I would have had the 10 grand, but
Yeah.
it's still a pretty good fire pit.
Just trade them.
Yeah.
Be like, yeah, you keep that. I'll take the 10 grand.
Yeah.
Awesome. John, anything else?
If anyone wants to build me a $10,000 fire pit, I'm here. I'm available.
So you heard it here, History Channel. John is ready to play whatever part you need him to play.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you all for tuning in. If you're watching this after the fact, thank you. Please do post below who else you'd like us to talk to or what you'd like us to talk about. And just let us know. And we'll try to find more people that you want to talk to. So thanks, Chad, for coming on. Bye, everyone.
I